America, the world's greatest democracy, and at its heart, the vote, the will of the people. But how do you know if the vote is counted correctly? And if you don't know, then what have you got? Democracy? This is the story of a small group of citizens headed by a grandmother from Seattle. They set out on a journey to ask one simple question. How does America count its votes? What they found was secrecy, votes in the trash, and how to change the course of history.
Something broken in the promised land.
When people see what's really going on, there's no way we will allow this to continue.
Back in 2000, Al Gore lost the presidential election in Florida amongst the chaos and arguments over how to recount the votes. But no one thought to ask how the computers originally counted the results. As dusk fell on election night, one official noticed something very strange, a sign that the heart of America's democracy was in danger. In Volusia County, Florida, an election computer counted Al Gore's totals backwards. He had negative votes.
Was showing a minus sign in front of the votes that it had subtracted from Gore. I mean, it wasn't like it was trying to hide it. It says there's minus 16,022 votes here.
How could a computer that is supposed to protect the votes of you and me count backwards to give a candidate negative votes? Either it was an error, or someone had tried to rig the election. There was an investigation into the negative votes, and it was established that the problem couldn't have been due to machine failure, because only the totals for the presidential race were affected. It looked like a second memory card may have been loaded onto the computer. Memory cards contain the votes, but this second card had disappeared, so they couldn't check it. The origin of the negative votes was never proved, but some engineers thought that it might have been an attempt to tamper with the election. But no one will ever know for sure. The software that counted those votes was owned by Global Election Systems. In 2002, they were bought by the Diebold Corporation. The software is a trade secret. It's against federal and state law to look inside Diebold's voting machines.
I was the chief technical advisor to the Secretary of State of the largest state in the United States, and I was not allowed to look at the software running in Diebold or any other vendor's voting systems. To this day, I have not been allowed to look at that software.
Software like this is installed in more than 30 states. If someone tampers with it, or it just malfunctions, then the wrong people can win elections. If that happens, hundreds of representatives, judges, and other officials may hold offices they are not elected to. Democrat or Republican, it affects us all. Bev Harris lives in Seattle with her family. A writer, publicist, and grandmother, she knew nothing about computer programming or election systems. But when her county bought a new touchscreen system, she started to ask questions. The answers she got reveal a system in crisis.
You know, I had a life before I did this, and I never really envisioned becoming any kind of an activist or advocate. But sometimes something comes into your life and you know, well, if I don't do it, then maybe no one else will, and then maybe I don't want to bequeath that to my children. I put 3 words into a news search engine, voting machines and glitch, and found dozens and dozens of elections that were miscounted by the machines. And about that time, I thought, we really have a problem.
What Bev had found was that you couldn't necessarily rely on the election results produced by voting machines. In Louisiana, Susan Berniker, a Republican candidate, filmed the proof when she went to check her results on a touchscreen computerized voting system.
This is where I came the day that the warehouses are open to the candidates to inspect. So I came here with an old college buddy. He grabbed his camera, and I asked them to show me how the machine worked. So I just started fooling around with the machine. And it's when I pressed the button next to my name, and then I look down and I see Mr. Gambaluca's name in the display when I press Susan Bernecker. Shall we do it again?
Do it again. Yeah.
Okay, here we go again. I'm pressing Bernecker. Gambaluca shows up. So we went down the row. We probably tested 15 machines, and I said, you know what, we don't have to test anymore. And that is when I said, oh my goodness, this is terrible. We can't count our votes, so how do we know this is right?
Because the casting of the vote is secret, it's rare to get documentary evidence of machines miscounting. But Susan's experience isn't an isolated problem. Computers count around 80% of America's votes. In Tallahassee, Florida, the supervisor of elections, Ion Sancho, wanted to be absolutely sure that when his computers declared a winner, it was because that was the will of the people.
The vendors have entirely too much power in the elections arena today.
This is a screencast of a 2003 fundraising letter written to 100 Republicans by Diebold CEO Walden Odell. In a letter, he said, quote, I am committed to helping Ohio deliver its electoral votes to the president, meaning President Bush. I saw this quote on 2 other web sources, CNN.com and NewYorkTimes.com, but some kind of filter prevented me from screencasting this information. Diebold is the largest maker of e-voting machines in the United States, and the CEO in the 2004 election was advocating for one particular candidate for president. That should be disturbing, seeing as how Diebold software in their voting machines cannot be reviewed by any Secretary of State, any governor, or any local voting official.
Election officials are really overly dependent upon the vendors. Vendors control what kind of technology may be offered in a state. We're essentially hostage to the financial desires of private interests to conduct the most public of our procedures, public elections.
Ion asked Black Box Voting to look at his Diebold optical scan system, and they invited computer security expert Harry Hursti from Finland.
This is a first. We're going to be looking at the machines, the real machines. That's a real system that's actually been used in real elections.
Well, let me tell you what we're going to do today. We have constructed a mini election, but Harry Hursti, as you have served as a technical advisor of how to do this, we're going to ask you to remain outside. What we have here is a programmed optical scan ballot. There is only one question on this ballot. Can the votes on the Diebold system be hacked using the memory card?
I have only touched the memory card, not the other parts of the Diebold election system, which is going to be used today. Only the memory card.
I can certainly speak for myself and Harry, and that we're going to vote yes.
All right, then let's have the rest of us vote no. 2 individuals, Hugh and Harry, will be voting yes. The rest of us will be voting no. and then we'll scrutinize the ballots afterwards to ensure that that is indeed the mark.
I will say that I'm wrong and Diebold is right, and I'm going to say no, they cannot be hacked.
It's impossible. So I vote no.
I'm going to film myself voting. Excuse me.
I'm going to mark this ballot no. Dr. Thompson?
I am going to mark this ballot yes. I've seen some pretty concerning things.
Well, it's down to you. You're the last voter, Harry.
All right. I think it could be. So I vote for yes.
You will be the second yes.
All right. Here is the memory card I have touched.
Okay. Now, this is the only piece of Diebold equipment that you've used.
That's correct.
Well, thank you. Let me take your ballot in. This card will go into this slot. The next activity that the election worker does on the morning of the election is turn the machine on, making it live to receive votes. When you do that, this machine will produce what is called a zero total tape. The machine is going through a self-test analysis, and then it'll spontaneously turn on. This is Harry's card that is telling us that there are 0 votes stored in the memory. Okay, let me get the ballots. Let's insert a yes ballot. We're going to put in another no. 7. And the last no ballot, 8. Placing the ender card in this device and telling it to turn off its counting function and do its reporting function will now cause the voting machine to print out a tape reading the number of votes that it had just read. Oh my.
Oh no! What is it? What is it? 7 yes, 1 no.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh. Let me see.
Here's the tape.
7 people said it could be hacked.
And we put through 6 and 2.
6
no's
no's
and 2
2
yeses.
Oh my gosh, do you know what this means?
How do we know that Harry didn't just change the report and the votes themselves on the memory card are still correct? If that was the case, when they go into GEMS, the results would be different, isn't that right?
I mean, the only way to know that is to read them into GEMS and to check the vote totals.
See what GEMS says. So should we do that?
I think we should, because I want to confirm for my own analysis, is this just a superficial
Right, that's a good
hack? In other words,
question.
did we just change the words on this paper? And we will upload this memory card if I had not seen what was behind this, I'd have no reason not to. I would have certified this election as a true and accurate result of a vote.
Susan, what does this mean for you?
It makes me cry. I'm sorry, but it does.
Why? Why?
There's so many reasons. The reasons because there are people out there who are are giving their lives to try to make our elections secure, and they're being called conspiracy theorists and technophobes, and these vendors are lying and saying that everything's all right, and it's not all right. And I'm crying because I'll quote somebody that I know who said that it's as though our country is one country pretending to be another country. How can this be happening to our elections?